My husband said I was crazy for thinking his mom had a key to our house. Then I installed cameras and watched her walk in every Tuesday while we were at work. It started with small things, a coffee mug in the sink that neither of us remembered using, the living room pillows arranged differently than how I'd left them, my shampoo bottle moved from the left side of the shower to the right. When I mentioned it to my husband, he'd laugh it off. "You're probably just forgetting," he'd say. "We're both so busy lately." But I wasn't forgetting. I started taking photos of rooms before leaving for work, the bathroom counter with my makeup exactly where I'd placed it, the kitchen with dishes stacked a certain way, and every Tuesday evening, something would be different. Not dramatically. Just enough to make me question my own sanity. My husband insisted I was being paranoid when I suggested his mom might have a key. Why would my mother sneak into our house? That's insane. She lives 40 minutes away. Except his mom had always been controlling. During our engagement, she'd shown up at my apartment unannounced 6 times, letting herself in with a key my husband had given her without telling me. When we bought our house, I'd made him promise she wouldn't have access. He swore she didn't, but the evidence kept mounting. One Tuesday, I came home to find my underwear drawer reorganized, everything folded differently, sorted by color instead of type. My stomach dropped. I called my husband at work. "Someone's been in our house." "In our bedroom." He sighed like I was exhausting him. "Maybe you reorganized it and forgot. Have you been sleeping okay?" The gaslighting made me feel like I was losing my mind. That weekend, I told my husband I needed to run errands. Instead, I drove to an electronics store and bought 2 hidden cameras. I installed one in the living room, disguised as a clock, and one in the hallway pointing at the front door. I didn't tell my husband. Something in my gut told me he wouldn't react well. The following Tuesday, I sat in my office unable to concentrate. At 10:30 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I opened the camera app with shaking hands. And there she was, my mother-in-law, walking through our front door like she owned the place. She had a key in her hand, humming to herself as she locked the door behind her. I watched in real time as she moved through our house. She walked into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator, examining the contents and rearranging items. She ran her finger along the counters, frowning at something. Then she pulled out cleaning supplies from under our sink and started wiping things down. My cleaning wasn't good enough, apparently, but it got worse. She moved to the living room and started going through the mail on our coffee table, opening envelopes, reading our bills. She even opened a letter from my doctor's office. She picked up my journal from the end table and flipped through the pages. My private thoughts. My personal journal where I'd written about her, about the tension in our marriage, about everything. She read for 15 minutes. I could see her expression changing through the camera. Anger, disgust, satisfaction. She took photos of several pages with her phone. Pages where I'd vented about feeling suffocated, where I'd written about arguments we'd had, where I'd admitted feeling uncertain about things. She was documenting everything, and I realized with growing horror that she was building a case against me. Then she carefully placed the journal back exactly where she'd found it, making sure it looked untouched. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold my phone. I sat in my office bathroom stall, watching the live feed as my mother-in-law tucked my journal back exactly where she'd found it. She looked at her phone, checking the photos she'd just taken, and I could see this satisfied smile spread across her face. She'd found what she was looking for. Evidence. Ammunition. Something she could use against me. But she wasn't done yet. After photographing my journal, she moved to our bedroom. She opened my dresser drawers, running her hands through my clothes. She picked up a lacy nightgown my husband had bought me for our anniversary and held it up with this look of disapproval, like I was some kind of harlot for owning it. Then she carefully folded it and placed it back, but not before taking a photo of it. Then she went to his nightstand. She opened the drawer and pulled out the birthday card I'd given him last month, the one where I'd written about how much I loved him, how grateful I was for our marriage, how I wanted to start trying for a baby soon. She read it, took photos of it, and the look on her face was pure calculation. She spent another hour in our house that day, going through everything. She checked the medicine cabinet in both bathrooms. She looked through the documents in my husband's home office. She even went into our spare bedroom and opened the boxes we hadn't unpacked yet from our move 6 months ago. At one point, she called someone. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but she was animated, gesturing as she talked. She was in our kitchen, and I watched her open our pantry, examining everything like she was conducting an inventory. When she finally left at 12:35 p.m., she locked the door carefully behind her. She'd been in our home for over 2 hours, and she looked satisfied, like she'd accomplished something important. I sat there staring at my phone screen for another 10 minutes after she left, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. My mother-in-law had spent 2 hours violating every boundary possible, going through my most private thoughts, photographing intimate items, and she'd done it with this sense of entitlement, like she had every right to be there. I called my best friend Hannah. "I think I'm going to be sick," I told her. Hannah had never liked my mother-in-law, had warned me before the wedding that she gave off controlling vibes. "What happened?" Hannah asked. I explained everything, the cameras, the live feed, watching my mother-in-law violate every boundary possible. She read my journal, Hannah. She went through my underwear. She photographed personal things. By the time I finished, Hannah was furious. "You need to confront your husband right now. Don't wait until tonight. This is insane." But I couldn't confront him yet. Something told me I needed more evidence. One video might not be enough, especially if he was in on it. The thought made me nauseous, but I couldn't ignore the possibility. He'd been so dismissive of my concern, so quick to call me paranoid, so insistent that his mother didn't have a key when she clearly did. I went through the camera's saved footage from the previous 2 Tuesdays, and there she was. Every Tuesday for at least the past 4 weeks. The same routine. Let herself in around 10:30 a.m., spend 2 hours going through our things, leave by early afternoon. In one video, she'd actually done our laundry, rewashed clothes that were already clean, refolded them her way. In another, she'd rearranged our entire linen closet. But the worst video was from 5 weeks ago. I watched her go into our bathroom and take photos of my birth control pills. She'd opened the container, counted them, and taken pictures with dates visible. She was tracking my cycle, monitoring whether I was taking my medication regularly. The violation felt so deep, so invasive, that I actually threw up in the office bathroom. That evening, I went home and pretended everything was normal. My husband came home around 6:30 p.m., kissed me hello, and asked how my day was. Fine, I lied. Yours? The casual deception felt wrong, but I needed to play this carefully. Over dinner, I casually mentioned his mom. Have you talked to your mom lately? I asked. He shrugged. Talked to her yesterday. Why? Just wondering, I said. Has she mentioned wanting to visit soon? He looked at me strangely. She visits every few weeks. You know that. Why are you asking? Every few weeks. Not every Tuesday. Not the regular scheduled invasions I'd been documenting. I smiled and changed the subject, but my mind was racing. He didn't know. Or he was an incredibly good liar. After dinner, I made an excuse about needing to work on a project and went to our spare bedroom. I downloaded all the camera footage to my laptop and backed it up in several locations. Cloud storage, external hard drive. I even emailed it to myself and to Hannah. If this footage somehow disappeared, I wanted copies. Then I did something that felt sneaky but necessary. I checked our home security system logs. We had a basic system that tracked when doors were opened if the alarm was set. But we rarely set the alarm during the day, only at night and when we traveled. I scrolled back through the past 6 months of records. There it was. Every single Tuesday for the past 29 weeks, the front door had been opened between 10:20 a.m. and 10:40 a.m. and closed again between 12:30 p.m. and 1:15 p.m., 29 weeks. Over half a year of her invading our space. And I'd only just confirmed it now. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. The gaslighting made sense now. Either my husband knew and was complicit, or he'd given his mother a key long ago and genuinely didn't remember, and she'd been manipulating both of us. Neither option was acceptable. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there next to my husband, watching him breathe peacefully, wondering if the man I'd married was someone I actually knew. Around 2 a.m., his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wouldn't normally look, but everything felt different now. I carefully picked it up and saw a text from his mom. The preview said, "We need to talk about what I found in her journal. Call me tomorrow." My blood went cold. I slowly put his phone back and stared at the ceiling. She was going to weaponize my private thoughts. Turn my husband against me using words I'd written to myself. For myself. The journal had entries about our arguments, about feeling frustrated with his mom's boundary issues, about marriage counseling we'd done last year. All the messy, complicated feelings that exist in any real relationship. And she was going to twist it all. The next morning, my husband's phone rang during breakfast. It was his mom. I watched his face as he answered. "Hey mom, what's up?" I couldn't hear her side, but I saw his expression change. Confusion, then concern, then something that looked like worry. He glanced at me. "Really? Are you sure?" More listening. He stood up and walked into the other room. I sat there eating my toast, my stomach in knots. 10 minutes later, he came back looking troubled. "Is everything okay?" I asked innocently. He sat down heavily. "My mom wants to talk to both of us. She says it's important. Can we meet her for dinner tonight?" The trap was being set. "Sure," I said calmly. "That's fine. What's it about?" He hesitated. "She wouldn't say. Just that it's about our marriage and she's concerned." I nodded, putting on my best confused face. "That's strange, but okay." I went to work and immediately called Hannah. "It's happening." She read my journal and now she's calling some kind of intervention dinner. Hannah swore. "You need to control this narrative. Show him the videos before dinner. Don't let her set the stage." But something stopped me. If I showed him the videos now, he'd warn his mom. They'd come up with a story together. No, I needed to let this play out. Let her reveal her hand. Then I'd show mine. That evening, we met his mom at an upscale restaurant downtown. She was already seated when we arrived, looking immaculate in a designer dress and pearls. She hugged my husband and gave me a tight smile. "Thank you both for coming," she said. "I know this is unexpected." We ordered drinks. She made small talk for a few minutes, asking about work, commenting on the weather. Then she folded her hands on the table and her expression shifted. "I need to talk to you both about something very serious," she began. "I've been worried about your marriage." She looked at my husband. "And I think I've discovered why things have been so difficult." My husband looked confused. "What are you talking about? Things aren't difficult." She reached into her purse and pulled out printed photos. They were pictures of pages from my journal. "I've been concerned about you two for months," she continued smoothly. "So when I visited last month and saw this journal lying open on the coffee table, I felt I had to look. For your sake, sweetheart." She was talking to my husband now, her voice dripping with maternal concern. My husband took the photos and started reading. I watched the color drain from his face. I could see which entries she'd printed. The one where I'd vented about feeling suffocated by his mom's involvement in our lives. The one where I'd written about our argument after she'd insisted on redecorating our living room without asking. The entry from our counseling where I'd admitted feeling unsure about our future. All the raw, honest thoughts I'd worked through with my therapist. All the feelings I'd processed and moved past. She'd cherry-picked the worst moments and presented them without context. "This was lying open on the coffee table?" my husband asked quietly. She nodded. "I was there dropping off those curtains I'd hemmed for you. The ones for the guest room. I walked in and saw it. I'm so sorry, honey. I know this is hard to see." He'd never asked her to hem curtains. She'd just shown up with them one day. But he was too focused on the journal entries to question that detail. I could see him struggling, trying to reconcile what he was reading with what he knew of our marriage. I took a sip of water and set my glass down carefully. That's interesting, I said calmly, because I'd like to know which day you came over. His mom blinked. What? I smiled. You said you came over to drop off curtains and found my journal lying open on the coffee table. Which day was that? She recovered quickly. I don't remember exactly. A few weeks ago. Maybe a month. I nodded slowly. And you just walked into our house? You have a key? She looked at my husband. Of course I have a key, sweetheart. You gave me one when you closed on the house. Remember? For emergencies. My husband looked uncomfortable. I guess I did. But I don't remember you coming over. She waved her hand dismissively. You weren't home. I just dropped off the curtains and left. I didn't want to bother you. Then how did you see the journal on the coffee table? I asked. If you were just dropping off curtains. The table went quiet. She realized her mistake. I saw it on my way to put the curtains in the guest room, she said. The coffee table is right there in the living room. I didn't go looking for it. It was just there, lying open. I kept my voice steady. That's strange, because I keep my journal in my nightstand drawer, not on the coffee table. My husband looked between us. Maybe you left it out that day, he suggested weakly. He wanted to believe his mother. Wanted there to be a reasonable explanation. No, I said firmly. I never leave it out. Ever. She broke into our house and went through my things. His mom's face flushed. Broke in? I have a key. Your husband gave it to me. And I was concerned about you two. Everything I've done has been out of love. My husband put his hand on mine. Let's all calm down. Mom, even if you were concerned, you shouldn't have read her private journal. That wasn't right. His mom's eyes filled with tears. I'm your mother. I was trying to help, and clearly I was right to be concerned. Look at what she wrote about me. About us. She's trying to drive us apart. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I'd spent all day preparing for this moment. Do you want to know what else she's done? I asked. Both of them stared at me. I opened the camera app and pulled up the saved footage from yesterday. I placed the phone in the center of the table where they could both see. This is from yesterday, Tuesday, 10:32 a.m. I pressed play. The video showed his mom letting herself into our house. Watch, I said quietly. We sat there in silence as the footage played. His mom going through our mail, reading my journal, photographing pages, opening my dresser drawers, going through my underwear, taking photos of my birth control pills. The color drained from my husband's face. What the hell is this? He whispered. His mom was shaking. You're spying on me? You put cameras in your own house? I kept my voice level. You've been breaking into our house every Tuesday for over 7 months, going through our personal belongings, reading my journal, taking photos of my medication, tracking my birth control. She stood up abruptly. I am your mother-in-law. I have every right to be concerned about what kind of woman my son married. Every right? I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You've been invading our privacy for 7 months. You photographed my underwear. You went through our financial documents. You've been stalking us in our own home. My husband was staring at the phone, watching video after video. There were weeks of footage. His mom going through our things like it was her property. Mom, he said finally, his voice hollow. How could you do this? She reached for him. I was protecting you. She's not good enough for you. I knew it from the beginning. I've been trying to find proof. Those journal entries prove I was right. He pulled away from her touch. You've been breaking into our house, going through our bedroom. This is insane. She started crying, real tears this time. I'm your mother. I gave birth to you, raised you. Everything I do is for your benefit, and you're going to side with her? Some woman you've known for 6 years over your own mother? I watched my husband's face. This was the moment. Would he choose reality or the woman who'd spent his entire life manipulating him? He stood up. I think you should leave, he said quietly. His mom looked shocked. What? I'm leaving. You're not. You've crossed every line. You've been violating our privacy for months, going through our personal belongings. I can't believe you did this. She gathered her purse, her face twisted with anger. You'll regret this. Both of you, she pointed at me. I know what you are. I've seen the real you. And when my son finally wakes up, I'll be here waiting. She left the restaurant. The tables around us had gone quiet. Everyone had been watching the drama unfold. My husband sat back down and put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry, he said. I didn't know. I didn't believe you. I should have believed you. I reached across the table. How long has she had a key? He looked up. I gave it to her when we closed on the house. She asked for one, for emergencies. I didn't think it was a big deal. My parents always had a key to my apartment when I lived alone. It seemed normal. Did you know she was coming over? I asked. He shook his head. No. God, no. I had no idea. When you kept saying things were different, that someone had been in the house, I thought you were being paranoid. I thought the stress from work was getting to you. The gaslighting hadn't been intentional on his part. He genuinely believed his mother wouldn't do something like this. And she'd known that, had counted on it. We need to change the locks, I said. Tomorrow. And she needs to return that key. He nodded. I'll handle it. I'm calling her tomorrow and telling her to mail it back. If she doesn't, I'm filing a police report. I wasn't sure a police report would accomplish anything. She was his mother. She had a key he'd given her, but the cameras had caught her going through private documents, photographing personal items. Maybe there was a case for invasion of privacy. We can talk to a lawyer, I suggested. See what our options are. He agreed. I can't believe she did this. That she's been doing this for months. We left the restaurant and drove home in silence. When we got inside, the house felt different, contaminated. Knowing she'd been here, touching our things, invading our space. Tomorrow we're changing every lock, I said. And I'm getting more cameras. He nodded. Whatever you need. I should have believed you. I'm so sorry I didn't. That night, I lay in bed thinking about everything. The months of gaslighting, the feeling of losing my mind, the small changes that made me question my own memory. She'd done it deliberately, moved things just enough to make me doubt myself, and it had almost worked. If I hadn't installed those cameras, I'd still be the crazy wife with the paranoid delusions. The next morning, my husband called his mom while I listened on speaker. "We need you to return the house key," he said. "Today." There was a long pause. "Are you serious right now?" she finally asked. "Completely serious," he said. "You violated our privacy. You betrayed our trust. I want the key back by tonight or I'm changing the locks and filing a police report." She laughed. "A police report? For what? I'm your mother. I have a key you gave me. For going through our personal belongings," he said. "For photographing private documents and medical information. For stalking us." "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped. "I was concerned about your marriage. Any good mother would be." "No," he said firmly. "Any good mother would respect boundaries. You're not welcome in our house anymore." The line went quiet. Then her voice came back cold and hard. "You'll regret this. I've done everything for you, sacrificed everything. And this is how you repay me? By choosing her over your own mother?" "I'm not choosing anyone," he said. "I'm setting boundaries that should have existed from the beginning. Return the key by 6 p.m. tonight, or I'm changing the locks." He hung up. She didn't return the key. At 4 p.m., a locksmith came and changed every lock in our house. Front door, back door, side garage entrance, every single access point. It cost $800 and it was worth every penny. While the locksmith worked, I installed 4 additional cameras, 1 in each bedroom, 1 in the office, complete coverage of every room in the house. That evening, my husband's phone started ringing. His mom. He declined the call. She called 6 more times. Then she started texting. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. She's poisoned you against me. I'm your mother. I deserve respect. Family comes first. You'll regret this when I'm gone." The texts went on for hours. Classic manipulation, guilt trips, threats, reminders of everything she'd done for him. My husband turned off his phone. "I can't deal with this right now," he said. He looked exhausted, drained. The realization that his mother had been violating our privacy for months, that she'd gaslit both of us, that she'd been documenting my birth control to probably prove I was preventing pregnancy, it was too much. I suggested we talk to a therapist, together, to process all of this. We started therapy the following week. The therapist listened to everything and confirmed what I'd suspected. His mom's behavior showed signs of narcissistic personality disorder, the need for control, the boundary violations, the manipulation when confronted, the inability to accept responsibility. She suggested we consider going no contact, at least temporarily, while my husband worked through his childhood and learned to set healthy boundaries. No contact sounded extreme, but the more my husband talked about his childhood in therapy, the more patterns emerged. His mom had always been controlling. She'd chosen his clothes until he was 16, selected his college major, tried to break up his previous serious relationship before me, shown up uninvited to his apartment constantly when he lived alone. He'd thought it was normal, just how mothers showed love, but it wasn't normal. It was controlling and invasive, and it had escalated when he got married. I represented a threat to her control, another woman in her son's life, someone who might influence him to set boundaries, so she'd ramped up the violations, made herself a constant presence in our home even when we weren't there. For 6 weeks, we didn't speak to his mom. She tried everything, showed up at our house and rang the doorbell for 20 minutes. We didn't answer. She sent my husband's aunt to talk to us. We politely declined. She mailed a 12-page letter explaining how we were destroying the family. We read it in therapy and dissected the manipulation tactics. She tried to get us to meet her at his grandmother's birthday party. We sent a gift and didn't attend. Then things escalated. We started getting calls from family members, his cousins, his aunts and uncles, all saying the same things. "You're breaking your mother's heart. Family is everything. She's your mother. She deserves respect." The flying monkeys, our therapist called them, people his mom had recruited to fight her battles. My husband started blocking numbers. "I've never stood up to her before," he admitted in therapy. "I've always done what she wanted, made her happy, kept the peace. And now that I'm finally setting boundaries, she's trying to destroy our marriage." The therapist nodded. "She's losing control. This is her last attempt to regain it. Stand firm." Then came the social media campaign. His mom started posting on social media about ungrateful children, cryptic posts about family betrayal, photos of my husband as a baby with captions like, "I gave him everything," and "Is this what motherhood gets you?" Friends and distant relatives started reaching out, confused. "Is everything okay with you and your mom?" My husband made one post. It was simple and direct. "I'm setting healthy boundaries with family members who have repeatedly violated my privacy and trust. This is not easy, but it's necessary for my mental health and my marriage. Please respect our decision." The post got mixed reactions. Some people supported him. Others accused him of being cruel to his mother. But he left it up. 2 months after we'd gone no contact, his mom showed up at his workplace. She'd driven 40 minutes to his office building and waited in the lobby until he came down for lunch. They had a 15-minute conversation in front of his coworkers. She cried, she begged, she promised to respect boundaries. My husband stood firm. "You need to leave. If you show up here again, I'll call building security." She left, but not before causing enough of a scene that his boss pulled him aside afterward. "Is everything okay at home? Do you need to take some personal time?" My husband explained the situation in vague terms. Family boundary issues. His boss was understanding but clearly uncomfortable. Office drama involving crying mothers didn't reflect well. That night, my husband came home looking defeated. "I can't keep doing this," he said. "She's not going to stop. Every time we block one avenue, she finds another." I held him. So what do you want to do? He thought for a long moment. I want to move. Start over somewhere she can't just show up. Somewhere we can build a life without constantly looking over our shoulders. It was extreme, but also necessary. We'd both grown up in this area. Both our families were here. Our friends, our jobs. But the constant violation, the inability to ever feel truly safe in our own home, it was taking a toll. We started looking at job opportunities in other states, places far enough away that a casual drop-by would be impossible. 6 months after installing those cameras, we accepted job offers in Colorado. We were leaving Illinois, leaving everything familiar. It felt like running away, but our therapist reframed it. You're not running from her. You're running toward a healthier life. She doesn't own you. You get to choose where you live. We told very few people we were moving. His aunt, my best friend Hannah, a couple of close cousins who'd been supportive. We didn't post about it on social media, didn't share our new address, just quietly packed up our lives and left. The day we drove away, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness for the life we were leaving, relief that we'd finally be free. His mom found out we'd moved when she drove by our house 4 weeks later and saw a sold sign in the yard. She called my husband 31 times that day. He didn't answer. She texted, "How could you leave without telling me? I'm your mother. I deserve to know where you are." He replied once, "We moved to build a healthy life. Please respect our boundaries. We'll contact you when we're ready." We never gave her our new address. Started fresh in Colorado with new jobs, new routines, new boundaries. For the first time in our marriage, I felt like we could breathe. No more checking cameras, no more wondering if someone had been in our house, no more finding things moved and questioning my sanity. We were finally free. It's been 2 years now. His mom still tries to reach out. Birthday texts, holiday cards sent to his workplace. Somehow she found the address online. Occasional emails asking if we can work things out as a family. My husband responds politely, but maintains boundaries. We're not interested in a relationship that doesn't respect our autonomy. Some family members have taken her side. Others have quietly reached out to my husband saying they understand. Apparently, his mom tried the same controlling behaviors with his cousins before they set boundaries. His aunt admitted she'd had to change her locks years ago after finding his mom in her house rearranging things. There was a pattern. We weren't the first. We were just the first to completely cut ties. Last month, my husband's grandmother passed away. We flew back for the funeral. It was the first time we'd been in the same room as his mom in 2 years. She tried to hug him. He stepped back. "Not now, Mom." She looked hurt, wounded, like we were the villains in this story. But he stood firm. We paid our respects and left. We didn't owe her a reconciliation at his grandmother's funeral. On the flight home, my husband held my hand. "Thank you for pushing back," he said, "for not letting me dismiss your concerns, for installing those cameras. If you hadn't, we'd still be living in that nightmare. I might have never believed you." I squeezed his hand. "We did this together. You chose to set boundaries. You chose us over the manipulation. That took courage." Sometimes I think about those videos, the footage of his mom in our house, going through our things with that entitled expression. I still have them saved, backed up in multiple locations, not because I want to relive the violation, but because sometimes, when family members question why we moved away, why we don't talk to her, we need evidence. Proof that we weren't cruel or ungrateful. Proof that we were protecting ourselves from someone who refused to respect basic boundaries. People who haven't experienced narcissistic family members don't always understand. They hear mother-in-law problems and think of minor annoyances. Unsolicited advice, criticism of cooking. They don't understand the systematic violation, the gaslighting, the way your reality gets twisted until you can't trust your own perception. They don't understand why you'd move across the country to escape your husband's mother. But we do. We lived it. And we made the choice to prioritize our marriage, our mental health, our future children who will grow up with healthy boundaries instead of learning that love means tolerating violations. We made the choice to define family as people who respect us, not people who share DNA. My husband is in a better place now. He's learning what healthy relationships look like. He's working through the guilt that comes with disappointing a parent. He's building a life based on his choices, not his mother's expectations. And I'm learning to trust again, to feel safe in my own home, to know that my private thoughts will stay private, to exist without someone documenting my every move. We're thinking about starting a family soon, having kids of our own, and when we do, they'll have a grandmother who respects boundaries or they won't have her in their lives at all. Because we've learned that family isn't about obligation, it's about mutual respect. And no amount of DNA obligates you to tolerate abuse. The cameras are still installed in our Colorado house. Not because I think his mom will find us, but because I need the peace of mind. The ability to check and confirm that my reality matches what I remember. It's taken time to trust my own perception again after months of being gaslit. The cameras help. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never installed those cameras in our old house. If I just believed my husband when he said I was being paranoid. If I'd let her continue violating our space for years. How much worse it could have gotten. Whether we'd have kids by now with a grandmother who let herself into our house whenever she wanted. Who would have gone through their things? Who would have undermined our parenting at every turn? The cameras saved us. Gave us proof we couldn't dismiss. Showed us the truth we needed to see. Sometimes the craziest thing you can do is trust your instincts when everyone around you says you're wrong. My instincts told me something was off. That the small changes weren't my imagination. That someone was invading our space. And I was right. So if you're reading this and you feel crazy, if someone's telling you you're paranoid or imagining things, if your reality doesn't quite match what others say is happening, trust yourself. Document everything. Protect yourself. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to love us are the ones violating us the most. And you don't owe anyone access to your life just because they're family. We're building a good life here. A life with boundaries and respect. A life where we control who has access to our space. Where we don't have to wonder if someone's been in our house while we're at work. Where we can leave our journals on the coffee table without fear of them being photographed and weaponized. It's a simple life, but it's ours. And that makes all the difference. My husband recently told me that he's grateful for everything that happened. Not because it was easy, but because it forced him to see his mother clearly for the first time in his life, without the rose-colored glasses of childhood obligation, without the fog of normalized dysfunction. He saw her for exactly what she was. A controlling woman who would violate any boundary to maintain her grip on her son. And seeing that truth set him free. He's a different person now, more confident in his own decisions, less guilty about prioritizing our marriage, more willing to recognize manipulation when he sees it. The therapy helped, the distance helped. But mostly, having undeniable proof of what she'd done helped him trust his own judgment. I think about the me from 2 years ago, the woman who felt like she was losing her mind, who questioned every memory, who wondered if the stress was making her imagine things. I wish I could go back and tell her that her instincts were right, that she wasn't crazy, that sometimes when everything feels wrong, it's because something is wrong. But I can't go back. I can only move forward. And forward looks pretty good from where I'm standing now. We have a home that's actually ours, a marriage that's stronger for having survived this, and boundaries that protect us instead of imprisoning us. That's more than a lot of people get. Last week, I was cleaning out some old boxes and found the original hidden cameras I'd bought, the clock camera and the hallway camera that had captured everything. I held them in my hands, these small devices that had changed everything. My husband saw me looking at them. "You should keep those," he said. "As a reminder." "Of what?" I asked. "That you were right," he said. "That your instincts matter. That documentation saves lives." So I kept them, put them in a box in our closet with all the backup drives containing the footage, not as trophies, but as evidence that sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing. That standing up for yourself matters even when everyone tells you you're wrong. That trust should be earned, not demanded. His mom sent a Christmas card this year, addressed to his workplace again. Inside was a generic message about family and forgiveness. No acknowledgement of what she'd done, no apology, just an expectation that enough time had passed and we should all move on. My husband read it and threw it away. "Some bridges stay burned," he said, "and that's okay." I asked him if he ever missed her, the version of her he thought she was before all this happened. He thought about it for a long time. "I miss the idea of having a normal mother," he finally said. "But I never actually had that. I had a woman who loved me on her terms, who wanted a son she could control instead of a son she could respect. And I'm not going back to that. Not for holidays, not for guilt, not for anything. We're hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year. My family is coming. A few of his cousins who've been supportive. Friends we've made in Colorado. People who respect boundaries and understand that family is built, not inherited. It'll be our first major holiday completely on our own terms. No drama, no walking on eggshells. No wondering what's happening behind our backs. I'm looking forward to it. To cooking dinner in a kitchen where I know exactly where everything is because I put it there. To hosting guests who were invited, not people who let themselves in. To building traditions that are ours. To defining family as love and respect instead of obligation and control. The cameras are still recording, still backing up footage to the cloud, still giving me that sense of security I need. Maybe someday I won't need them anymore. Maybe someday the paranoia will fade and I'll trust that my home is actually mine. But that day isn't today. And that's okay. Healing isn't linear. Recovery takes time, and I'm giving myself all the time I need. My husband is in the kitchen now making coffee. He's humming, actually humming, something he never did in our old house. The weight he'd been carrying, the constant tension of managing his mother's expectations, it's gone. Replaced by something lighter, something that looks a lot like peace. And that's what makes everything worth it. Not revenge, not vindication, just peace. The quiet knowledge that we made the right choice, that we protected ourselves, that we built something new instead of accepting something broken, that we chose ourselves. And we'd do it again, every single time.